and find him, though he's not far from you. For in him you live, you move, you have your being, your very source of life. The reason you're able to take one breath after another. The reason your heart beats as it does. By the way, the cardiologist, we got some doctors here. The PQRST complex in a EKG, you divide the length of the QRS total from the little P wave, phi. I don't know. You tell me. Why does that match the mean distance of the planets to one another? Why does that match the length of a DNA section over its width? Why does that match the only number that you subtract 1 from, divide it by itself, it's the same on the right side of the decimal? Why does that match the growth patterns of a nautilus? Why does that match some of the most beautiful architecture and geometry created during the Renaissance period? Because they followed that pattern. Makes me want to weep at a God who created like that and who said to us, look what I have done. In our small life group this week, somebody made the jump from God making himself obvious to God making himself transparent. So here I am. God, how much do you love me? This much. And they drove the nails in. Let's look at the next slide. God says in Isaiah, I am your creator. You were in my care before you were even born. Remember the previous passage from Acts? He set the time when you would be born. He set the place when you would be born. He set you here right now. He had it all arranged because of his love for you before you were even born. And so people start to realize this God is reaching out to me. And if you don't know Jesus Christ personally, you can today. You can. Look at this next passage out of Acts. Paul and Silas had gone to Philippi to preach the good news. There was this sorceress lady possessed by a spirit of divination, and she was following them around, saying, these are men of God. Listen to what they have to say. In other words, Satan was trying to kind of claim credit for what the Holy Spirit was doing. See, here I am, a pastor. I'm possessed by a spirit, and his name is Holy. And so Paul and Silas were going around possessed by the Spirit whose name is Holy. And here's this lady possessed by an evil spirit trying to claim a part of this. Listen to these guys. Don't worry, Paul, Silas. I'll lead the way. Come on and listen to Paul and Silas. And finally Paul said, you spirit, he got tired of this lady following him around. You spirit, come out of her. And so the guy who basically owned this woman made a lot of money off her sorcery powers. He caused this uprising against Paul and Silas and went to the leaders of the town, both Jewish and Roman, and said, these men are teaching things that are not lawful. These men are causing a stir everywhere they go. And so they were arrested, and the magistrates had them flogged and beaten and threw them into prison. And he got his best prison guard, and he said, listen, dude, you watch these two carefully, for they can cause a lot of trouble for us. Nothing is to happen to them. The guard said, all right. So he put them in the deepest dungeon and clad them in irons. And our story begins now at verse 25, where Paul and Silas in there complaining because they didn't have room service, where the concierge was mean. No, at about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. And the other prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly, there was a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once, all the prison doors flew open and everybody's chains came loose. The jailer woke up, for he had been snoozing. And when he saw the prison doors open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself because he thought the prisoners had escaped. And he knew